I got you, right? If I did, this is going to be worth your time. So what is clickbait and why is it important? So clickbait is something that's attractive. It's simple. It's easy to access. It competes for your attention. And it wins. It works. Now, in the social media world, it may not be the most productive thing, but actually, I think there's a lot that we can learn about clickbait and how we can clickbait ourselves. Now, I know that sounds corny, but bear with me. While it's true that certainly the most satisfying things in life take work, take investment, and certainly are not clickbait, I think a lot of people fail because they try to skip steps. They recognize that maybe their willpower, maybe their grit isn't quite what they want it to be, and they think that the best way to address that is to throw the equivalent of 500 kilos onto the bar mentally and try to bench press that up. New Year's resolutions, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But ultimately, your ability is not just your ability, your willpower right now, but ultimately your ability, your quality is your ability to lead yourself into greater things. It's more than just training wheels, it's a life skill. You see, your ability to go, I want to reach that goal, here's my plan on how to get there, here's my plan on how to make it easy, is really, really important. So if you want to do something that you ought to do, you need to do one of two things. You need to reduce the barrier of entry, make it easier to do what you're doing, or you need to make the reward greater so that the positive reinforcement for doing what you want to do is a lot more rewarding. An Overwatch example, because that's why we're here, is you only need to play a few ranked games. You don't need to play 4 or 5 hours of ranked every single day if you want to ranked up. At least that would be better than probably what you're doing right now. And then to make that reward more attractive is you could just play what you want. You don't necessarily need to play the meta. It would make it a lot more enjoyable of a process and less daunting if that I knew that instead of having to pick whatever tank that's meta or whatever DPS or support that's meta, especially if I'm in a metal rank, just play what I want and get good at what I want. That way the whole process is not only more rewarding, but it's more enjoyable as well. And that's great for Overwatch, but it's also really, really important for life. And this is something that I see failed all the time. We talk a lot about health in this channel, and I promise you this video isn't just going to be about health again. But I think one of the reasons why it's so easy to talk about is it's one of the first things that people mess up, failing to apply this skill. They fail to clickbait themselves. They don't make the project easy. They don't make it accessible, and they don't make it attractive to the eye. It's a grind. It's, how many times have I met IRL friends that talk to me about their New Year resolution? And I think we were just talking with Pepper about this the other day, about one of our friends in New Hampshire was talking about, I had a New Year's resolution to go to the gym, and they're going to the gym over 2 hours every single day, basically starting from scratch. And obviously that didn't last very long. And a lot of people I know get into these really nasty, hard workout routines, which are not particularly fun and then are really grinding. And, if you can stick with it, because that's what I did when I was a teenager, I had a football motivation, right? I wanted to build muscle for football, and it was a grind, and it was miserable. And I think without the motivation of football, I wouldn't have stuck with it. But a lot of people don't even have that external motivator. They have just this internal motivator, and then they wonder why they can't stick with it. You can't go from 0 to 60 in a flat month. You have to actually build yourself up for it. So why do New Year's resolutions fail? It's because you don't clickbait yourself. You don't make it easier to process and easier to build up those skills one step at a time. And while, we'd all love to have the willpower to just immediately switch from 0 to 100, but we need to develop that willpower with time and repetition. And we need to start small. You see, the problem is ego. The problem is ego. We don't want to be weak. We don't want to be that I can't handle going on a diet, or I can't handle working out at 5 a.m. for an hour every single day. But the truth is, you can't. You really can't. And not only is it, even if you could, it's probably approaching it that quickly is probably not even the most healthy way of doing it. So what do you do? Well, while we're on the fitness category, because again, that's what my channel seems to talk about a lot, make it fun. I found that I started enjoying my workouts a lot more when either I had something that I was training for, or the way that I was training was more enjoyable. Why do you have to work out? Go play pickleball. Why do you have to, do all those lifts that you hate? Find the lifts that are the most enjoyable for you and do them. Why do you have to go running? What about walking? What about sports? What about flag football? What about tennis? What about a local European football league? Like anything that make fitness fun for you. One of the other things that I've learned as well is that it's a lot easier to get exercise when I'm enjoying a TV show or watching a movie. Get one of those new walking pads, find an assault bike, get a treadmill, set it up. Do something that motivates you to actually do the exercise because you've lowered the barrier of entry and you've made it more attractive. And while we're on that note, you don't need to be lifting weights for over an hour and a half, 3-4 times a week. I think for most of us, we benefit from just 15 to 20 minutes of of lifting 2 to 3 times a week. Now, will that make you into Arnold Schwarzenegger? No, but that's beyond a really good start. In fact, you could probably spend the rest of your life with just that amount of weightlifting and you'd probably be just fine. And the same thing goes for health. I made the joke on stream a few weeks ago that it's big kale. It's this big corporate conglomerate that's trying to make people hate health food because everyone thinks of like kale and spinach and lean chicken and plain like all these nasty foods. Guys, what's a fruit that you really enjoy? What's a healthful food that you really enjoy? What's a meat that you could probably cook and then really enjoy? What is a drink that has less sugar that you would really enjoy? Like, these are the things that you guys can probably stick with over a long period of time. And I'm telling you guys, when you build these habits, it only gets easier. I'm at a point in time right now where my diet is ridiculously strict. I don't eat sugar almost at all, about once every 3 or 4 months. I do not do artificial coloring, artificial flavoring, no trans fats, no processed foods, like nothing. And I haven't had many of those things in almost a decade. And people look at me and are like, oh man, how did you do it? How do you do it? It really started small. I remember at one point in time, I researched the artificial coloring, artificial sweeteners, stuff, especially stuff like aspartame and the potential side effects and things that I wanted to generally avoid. And trans fats, I think, was the other one. And I remember I was like about 17, 18 years old. I should just probably avoid that. I still went to Chick-fil-A. I could still have McDonald's fries and stuff like that. But I was like, those things, I'm not going to really miss them when they're gone. And then we went from there into artificial coloring. And then I realized that I could probably cut down on fast food and I could probably do this instead. And I started to find other more healthy foods that I actually started to enjoy. And I started to, cook foods and do this and find like, wow, this is really just as good. And your taste buds change. And actually over time, I realized that I actually don't miss sweet things much at all. Or the sweet things that I do like are actually pretty good for you. And so my tastes changed. It took time, but it changed. And it wasn't really that hard to do because I never really bit off more than you can chew. Now, I'm not a genius. I kind of did that accidentally. I kind of figured it out accidentally, but it worked. It took me a lot longer to figure out how to do that for fitness. And for many, many years, working out was frankly a chore because I wasn't doing exactly what I wanted to do. Hi, kitty. I wasn't doing exactly what I wanted to do, nor was I actually doing lifts for a particular reason outside of just the fact that I wanted to build muscle. And so I think that that's like the key thing is like you have to make things more attractive. So one more thing as well, now that I'm thinking about it, is one other thing that makes clickbait more so effective is that it baits your attention more than what surrounds it. When we look at the YouTube suggested videos, the video that we're going to click on is the one that beats out the other video. Maybe it's not necessarily the best video, but it's the one that is better than the other videos. Hi, kitty. So you need to ask yourself, what am I surrounding myself with right now that's not really giving me joy and it's not very productive? So look for those distractions. Look for distractions that are competing with things like spending time with your family, that are competing with things like more productive hobbies or just taking care of yourself healthily. I hate to be that guy, but social media is going to be at the top of the list for me. Remove those things. It's not that everything has to be productive. It just needs to be either giving you joy or it needs to be productive. And if it's neither of those two things, then why are you doing it? And I think that that's where we need to be not only self-aware, but really disciplined and diligent in sorting and finding those things out. So again, find those things that aren't productive and that aren't giving you joy and remove them. Start small, build habits, grow yourself, and see where it takes you. And you don't even necessarily need to do all of this at once. Remember, the whole point of this video is that you start small. Clickbait yourself. Make it easy. Make it accessible. Make it more fun. And start with only one thing. You don't need to do both your health and fitness at the same time. I know that you're like, well, I can do that, right? But if you could do that, then why haven't you done it already? Do something different. Approach this from a different perspective. Don't be the definition of insanity doing the same thing over and over and over again. Approach it from a new perspective, set the bar low, and then consistently hurdle the bar. And then as time goes on, if you feel like you can raise the bar, then raise the bar. Anyway, that's all I've got. Have a blessed week. Chop wood, carry water.